if y'all are ready, we'll go into this new intro here that I was sent as a suggestion. So, y'all let me know what you think.
We'll do it live. No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Man.
As business
That
owners,
is me.
entrepreneurs, family men, it's difficult for us to find the time to put together projects like these. Even though it's something we really want to do, unfortunately, taking care of the things we have to take care of comes first. However, because of viewer support for people like you, we're able to continue doing this. Please consider joining our Patreon and supporting the Burn and Return podcast. You're listening to Burn and Return, a weekly 1-hour podcast covering news from the agricultural and turfgrass industries.
With the DJ Scratch, that means we are live. Welcome to, well, that means we are recording. Welcome to another episode of Burn and Return. My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor. The last name is Martin. I actually use my real identity on here for whatever reason, for what it's worth. It's probably not the wisest thing to do, but at some point you just have to chalk it up and say, I'm in too deep at this point. What is it? What is that song? There's a 3-6 Mafia song. I'm in it too deep to get out now. They always told me death was the only way out. So I guess that's where I'm at this point, and it is what it is. Alongside me, we have Ryan DeMay and Ray Ito. Gentlemen, how in the hell are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. We missed last week. I was sick. I was a week away from probably being a star in Nub Hub. If you're a frequent listener and know what that's all about, but my legs do not smell like Lieutenant Dan or corn, so I'm all good to go. And yeah, it's all gravy, baby. So Ray, how about you? What's going on down there?
Well, business as usual. Otherwise, I can't complain, right? Can't complain.
Glad to know we do not have Lieutenant DeMay with us today. That is
I
always
know.
a positive.
No, that was
that
just
means-
such a scary freaking thing. I mean, really.
Yeah,
That was scary.
I mean, that's one more week we get to avoid the shrimping boat, if I recall correctly. And
Yeah.
you know what? That's fine. Although I will say, look, when I retire, which isn't going to be much longer, I'll be honest with you. Okay, I'm 36. I'm going on 57. All right, and I have made a bunch of strategic decisions to my life up at this point that, you know, I'm trying to retire by a certain age because I know just physically I'm not going to be able to handle it. But you know the insanity of it all. You know the insanity of it all. I want to retire and commit myself to the type of work that is going to put me in the face of death day in and day out. Is that not just the most extreme psychopathic thing that you could possibly do? Like, literally. And you can talk to my wife about this. Our idea, post work career, is to live on a boat in the ocean, and then eventually we're going to get to the point where, you know, we want to set up an establishment in a very, very remote island in the middle of nowhere and be completely self-sustained. It's psychotic. It's insane. I'll probably end up dying of typhoid fever or in a horrific storm in the sea. And I to be honest, I think I'd rather go that way. I'd rather be on a Bubba Gump shrimp boat and take a lightning bolt to the chest rather than a slow drawn out. Oh, Matt got the old the I don't know, insert whatever takes you 10 years to
Dysentery.
kill you kind of disease. Yeah, right. Like, yeah, he's just slowly rotting away. He's got ALS, and he's not going to make it back from this one. It's like, man, I don't want to deal with all that. Like, let me catch a lightning bolt to the chest, and I'll just get out of here. Anyway, I digress. I have no idea how we got there. By the way, speaking of good news, boys, let's check out this week's headlines. It was a terrible segue too. What am I doing? Who am I? Is this thing on?
Can we put the lightning bolt up your ass instead of in your chest? You have a preference on where the lightning bolt goes?
I want it in my chest. Right. I mean, just turn the heart off.
Hit me with that shit. I love to get lightning on.
I'm a fan of electricity at this point in my life. The Hill. This article is from The Hill here, and so there's a couple things here, and this is something I actually want to talk about with Aldo on this upcoming week's what is the word I'm looking for? Thirsty Thursday. Aldo's going to be on J Laveau. And Aldo is a turf grass student currently, and there's some things going on in the background that are being talked about, but not really making it to the news yet. So we're probably not going to talk about it here. But some issues with EPA and things potentially being pulled from the market, things coming onto the market, and I think these policies that are starting to show up here are going to be worthwhile. So we're going to talk about one of the University of Tennessee videos that came out of Turf Tuesday from this past April, and I want to talk about that with Aldo. And I think I want to talk about the congressional impact, right? And I think this article plays into it too, right here in a little bit of a different but similar way. From Fetterman here, agriculture can't cannibalize climate change funding. Federal funds aimed at helping agriculture address the effects of climate change must not be rated to fund agriculture as a whole, said Senator John Fetterman. His move comes as congressional Republicans suggest defunding agricultural conservation programs entirely. I strongly oppose any measures that would essentially cannibalize the Inflation Reduction Act conservation funding in order to pay for the Farm Bill conservation efforts, he wrote in a letter. The Inflation Reduction Act is the climate stimulus package the Democrats passed along party lines last September. It contains $19 billion allocated for helping agriculture adapt to the climate crisis. Now that money is up for grabs as part of the wider negotiations over the $1.4 trillion farm bill and an omnibus of food-supporting subsidies and legislation that is passed every 5 years. Republicans are seeking to loosen or cut any restriction tying that climate funding towards federal conservation programs. Some want to go as far as redirect all federal climate funding to the Farm Bill's baseline budget, essentially turning it into a catch-all slush fund, the Idaho Capital Sun reported. Ranking member John Boozman of Arkansas has voiced support for redirecting the entire $39 billion of the Farm Bill conservation funding, not just the climate-specific stimulus money, to the baseline budget, according to the Capital Sun. That's part of a broader argument between the properties about the role of the climate funding in the bill. In a discussion with the committee, Boozman implied that he'd like to see that money go to crop insurance programs, which have been pressed by a rising number of extreme weather events. Certainly, we're not going to try and tie our safety nets, our risk management tools that our farmers desperately need around, to being climate friendly. This statement represents a widening gulf between the two parties. Climate scientists generally agree that, at least in the case of flooding, heat, and drought, these rising damages are largely attributable to climate change. Democrats like Agriculture Committee Chairwoman Debbie Stabenow have argued against cuts to popular programs like the Environmental Quality Incentives Program and the Conservation Stewardship Program. They don't have the money to keep up with the demand from farmers. More than 2/3 of farmers and ranchers who apply for EKIP are typically rejected, according to the Institute of Agricultural and Trade Policy. While the IRA money must go to agriculture, there's no legal requirement for it to meet any specific climate or conservation measures, and it could be moved away from the EKIP and directed towards other programs. And it goes on to talk a bit more about that. And it ends as, in addition to extreme weather, inflation, and supply chain interruptions have strained other farm support programs like crop insurance, and some conservative members are proposing that climate funds be siphoned off to address other needs. Congressional Republicans, by contrast, passed legislation this week seeking to repeal $540 billion in climate stimulus funds as a condition for the generally routine move of extending the debt ceiling or the amount of money the federal government can borrow. And there's kind of a lot to unpack here, right? And here's the thing: is that when the government says we're allocating money for this, and then the other side of the government says, no, we instead of the spending money on that, we should spend it on this, and then the other side saying, no, it really should spend on this. But what ends up happening, and I think this is one of the things I read not too long ago, was that the government just accidentally lost $300 billion last year, right? And I don't believe any of these people with whatever they're talking about. I don't believe that there is a genuine effort in this $19 billion for helping agriculture adapt to the climate crisis. I don't fucking believe them a little bit. It says, yes, that's what we want to do on paper. I don't think that's how it would work out. And then the other side saying that, no, we need to bolster crop insurance because of the impact that's had on it due to the conditions that have been happening, or a select back to years of issues that have depleted those accounts. I don't fucking believe them either. I don't believe any of these fucking people. I don't think they give a shit. I think it's all fucking talk, and I think it's all on paper just to be able to say and point and claim moral superiority over the group, and no one gives an absolute fuck about what's actually taking place. And that's my take on it. And you can call me a cynic, you can call me whatever you want. But the fact of the matter is that everything that government involves itself in, especially in private business, ends up turning into absolute total fucking shit. Absolute total fucking shit. And all these people are fucking scumbags from the top to the bottom, to the left to the right. They're all fucking pieces of shit, fucking scumbags. And if they want to come kick in my fucking door and accost me for whatever hate speech, or you can call me, what is the other one now, domestic terrorist, or whatever, whatever you want to fucking categorize me in, that's fine. Go fuck yourself. You're all fucking pieces of shit. Fuck you. There it is. There's my take on this.
My goodness.
Oh,
tell us how you really feel, Matt, because
and then when
it's
they're
all
done,
right.
they can go fuck themselves and fuck you.
Yeah, because you know what? Here's my take on it. The phrase climate change has essentially become a catch-all and a justification for government control and collectivism and authoritarianism. It is all bullshit, okay? And if it's not about that, it's all about these feel-good measures that basically export all of our dirty deeds and our dirty laundry to other places. Because we always talk about how, okay, we're going to take away everybody's gas lawnmower and make people use lawnmowers that run on lithium batteries. Well, guys, guess where the hell the lithium comes from? Right? Where does the lithium come from? Not from here in the USA. And where does the
And you know what's fucking crazy about that is that we've got a fucking mine in Nevada right now that is so caught up in bureaucratic red tape that everyone is sitting around with their fucking fist elbow deep up their ass wondering who's going to get the first fucking shot at it. And no one knows. You know why? Because it's so fucking wrapped in bureaucracy that of course we're going to have to keep importing it. And of course, let me ask you this. What do you think has a bigger environmental impact? Mining operations in the United States or mining operations in whatever other country that it's coming from?
Okay, I'm going to tell you that at the end of the day, I rather have a mine or some other manufacturing operation within the United States. And do you know why I rather have it within the United States, Matt?
Why?
Because I know that there will not be flagrant pollution. I also know that there will not be child labor involved, okay? Because I know lately it's been all over the news. Oh my God, they're letting people under 18 work. Well, you know what, you assholes? Please explain to me why I see pictures of these little children in Africa trudging around up to their knees in mud and filth and dirt, mining. Why do I see pictures like that, Matt? Explain that
Because
to me.
it's fucking happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't make this shit up. And so, and here's my other question now. If we place the kind of bureaucratic restrictions that the administration wants to place on agriculture within the United States in the name of addressing climate change, Matt, where does our food come from then? From countries that don't give it. No, it comes from countries that give no shits about the environment or the climate or otherwise, okay? They don't give a damn. Because, Matt, the other day, you sent me that government report. I was a little bit horrified, I was just mildly horrified. And you know why I was mildly horrified?
Hmm.
It is because that proved to me that in other countries, they are not as concerned, for example, about pesticide residues as, say, the United States is. They're not as concerned.
And we get fucking shit on for that at an unreal level, right? And you know where it's directed?
Yeah.
And this is what infuriates me about this whole fucking thing is that we can talk all this talk about all this money we're allocating for all these programs and all these outreach,
Mhm.
and we're putting all these high-powered people in these positions that are drawing big-ass fucking salaries. And the government is out here, we're taking care of you, and we're saving the planet, and we're doing this. And you know what? When we take a look at the pesticide residues of other countries, right, you're going to see elevated levels. We're way, 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 way restricted here in the way that is. But you know what? If you fucking turn on the news right now, or you fucking open social media, you open Google, it's glyphosate is poisoning you. Glyphosate is in your cereals. Glyphosate is in your milk. Glyphosate is in this. Glyphosate is in that. And of all the fucking boogeymen to point at, right? Let's talk about neonic residues that are hanging out. Let's talk about organophosphates that are hanging out at 10x the fucking standard that we have here in the United States. Why is the benign substance the fucking boogeyman in this instance? And you know why? Because they don't fucking care. They honestly do not fucking care. It's all about pointing at the other side and saying, no, I have moral superiority. And the other one saying, no, I have moral superiority. And the only thing they're jockeying for is more fucking power and more fucking money to waste it all. Look at our fucking debt situation that we have going on right now. And someone's going to say, well, it's because Trump spent all the money. Of course he fucking spent all the money. And look at the fucking presidents before that. They spent all the fucking money too, because they don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about me. They're not here to take care of us. They're not here to take care of anybody. Rely on yourself, motherfucker. Quit thinking that these people will do fucking anything to make your life better. It's all a facade. Your life is your responsibility. Your family is your responsibility. The rest of it is complete and total fucking make-believe. Complete and total fucking make-believe. Demake, you want to pour a little sugar on this boiling pot of water here and try to sweeten it up a little bit?
I'm a boiling pot of rage and I'm about to explode.
Yeah. Maybe hit it with a fire extinguisher or something. I don't know. Just don't pour oil in it.
All right. Let me first address the article and the fact that
I forgot about the article.
Yeah, jockeying for position here and saying that this is lobbying 101 right here of what's going on, right? Lobbying 101, in which the agriculture lobby is saying we'd rather have that in the form of crop insurance payments because we know we're going to get that to a wider subset of our people, right? That are going to be affected and that are going to turn around and say, hey, you helped us out. Here's some more money. You help us out some more, right? So there's that aspect of it. The conservation idea has been that program has been in place, or the programs, I should say, have been in place for a long time. And I think they've worked where they should. There's definitely people that are abusing the system. And I have no doubt in my mind that when you throw $19.5 billion at the situation, that there's going to be other people waiting in the wings. Now, we talked about some of this previously when they first announced this. This was back in like February, something like that, maybe even a little bit earlier, that they announced this after the signing and that this money would be rolling out. Some of this is going towards enhanced fertilizer technology. Some of it's going into other places, right, that aren't necessarily conservation related to land per se, but into other technological aspects, right, of agriculture. So I think it is a good thing in that sense, but what it's being portrayed as is that it's all based on climate change and it's all tied back into that. And while that can be an overarching goal and that's fine, like the messaging here, the narrative is what gets lost in the wash, and that's what fucks this whole thing up, right? And that's what makes it a wedge issue, right? Of, well, if you just said it was conservation, then hey, no problem, no harm, no foul. But now that you say it's, for climate change specifically, now one side's got a problem with it and the other side's got to fight and claw and scratch and everything like that. So, it'll be interesting to see how that part of it plays out. I mean, and again, we're talking about, $19.5 billion, really $40 billion when you add in the other conservation fund program funds that exist. So $40 billion in a 1.2 or 1.3 trillion dollar bill, right? Which is the farm bill. Over. Pennies, right? We're talking about pennies in the grand scheme of things, and that's what they're fighting over. So again, it's just a wedge issue. And to Matt's point, yes, you're right, Matt. It's a zero-sum game. There are no winners because it's not meant to have winners, right? It's meant to continue the continuation of power, the coalescing of power, right? And there's really no end game in sight. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
In the show notes, we're going to throw a link in there. I just sent it to J Pink, and it actually spells out all of these different programs, and you'll have to take the individual dollar amounts and place them to them, but it at least spells out the purposes and all the other shit that's going into all of it. And then if you want to have a real good time, look at the people that are managing these, the teams of people that are managing these, and see what their qualifications are, and actually vet it. I have not done that, but if it's a government program, I have to bet that the people that are going to be managing this are probably not the people you want to have managing it. I'll just say that. Moving on, no. And what were you going to say, Ray?
Oh, no, because you see, at the end of the day, Matt, this ain't about the money or about how much is being spent. This is all about the actual agenda. Okay? This is not about money because you see, Matt, at this point in time, I don't care about the dollar amounts. I basically worry more about what is actually going to happen to me, you, and people as a whole. What is the end game here? That's what people actually ought to be thinking about. It's not about the damn money. It's like, fuck the money, because the money is just a distraction.
This is I want to pause you right there, and I want to continue this conversation actually with Aldo, since he's in a turf grass program, and Ray and Ryan, I'll share the link with you that I'm talking about and kind of timestamp it. That's the new EPA things that are starting to come, and where this money is going to get appropriated and how it gets shuffled around, and then the things that fall into under the microscope, and then how that passes down into lawn care specifically, is where I start to get my feathers really, really ruffled. And honestly, this outburst that I'm having right now is a lot of it just because I've been reading into that, and it's under this this guise of conservation. It's under this guise of directed programs and outreach and blah 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 blah. But then what ends up happening is a bunch of bullshit that ends up affecting us, right, in a very real and large way, and then we have to figure out how to deal with it on the back end. So anyway, we'll get into that with Aldo, because I think it's something that he, getting into this, has to be even more cognizant of, because it's all about your strategy, right, and that becomes part of your marketing plan and your business model and so on and so forth. So I think it's a conversation worth having there. Next up here, yes.
Joe knows turf. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm gonna give you a bunch of accurate turf facts today, because Joe knows turf.
Now, you may or may not know this, but we all, well, I don't know about Ray. I know Jay, Pink, Matt, and I do. We all wear this little whoop device, and we are not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form, but we're on a little community. So if you are in the Dirty Deeds community, you are a member of Patreon, and you want to get down with us, again, the way to check that out, www.patreon.com/burn and return. Check us out on there. You can hang out. You can even look at Matt's heart rate, which I've been doing very closely here for the last 30 minutes. And I thought, we ought to crank it up a notch here, because right now, Matt, between the pre-show, the headlines, and now Jono's turf, we've just got to send it to the stratosphere. Matt, is there any thunderstorms forecast for the greater Knoxville area here anytime soon? I just want to make sure you don't take a lightning bolt to the chest.
No, I'm good, but I'm looking back. My stress monitor was at a 2.5, by the way.
Yeah,
on a scale
that's
of 1 to 3, I was at a 2.5. So
yeah, it's not good.
Feeling good.
All right, well, listen, stand out on the poop deck and ahoy, mateys. Let's go ahead and watch our friend. We got to get this guy on here. We need an intervention soon, guys. He's back. It's the Lawn Barber.
Hey, what's up, guys? So I know the video I forgot to post last week. I've been really behind on posting. I posted a video about putting out new grass seed. We're smart patch for this whole area here. Now since then, put down straw, and the video that you're about to watch is going to show you an additional product we put on top of this one, and straw and topsoil. So just stay tuned. This one.
Now, here's how I like to frame this, ladies and gentlemen, is, this gentleman is in the South Carolina area, I believe Charleston. I can't say for certain, but in any event, he is trying to seed professionally Bermuda grass in a backyard here somewhere in the South Carolina area, and we'll talk about some of the limitations and constraints that he's got to work with here. But I just want to keep in mind, and have you guys keep in mind, as far as the teaching aspect of this, folks that are getting ready to make repairs to warm season areas. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit on our returns, but in this segment, people that are getting ready to make those types of repairs, what they might think about doing if you were the ones making said repairs in certain areas. So let's go ahead and watch what old boy here does.
This one says supposed to grow in 7 days. So it's been 2 weeks since this has been put down, and the other product, it's been a week. So you can see that it sprouted up just a little bit in some areas. But it's still gonna take a little time, even though it says we see growth in as little as 7 days, but you got to give it time. So make sure you like, subscribe, whatever platform this video's on, and we're about to get right into it.
You know what? I know darn well why that Bermuda faded out into dirt.
Yeah.
Ray, why don't you go ahead and set the scene for us here? What for the folks that are listening on audio only? Again, you can find us on your favorite podcast platform. You don't have to wait and just look at our ugly mugs on YouTube. You can go to Apple Podcasts. You can go to Spotify. You can go to Porn Store Peep Show booth and probably find us in there too. I know.
We're there.
Find all of us in there. Yep,
We're there.
So anyway, but set the scene here for us, Ray. What are we looking at in terms of the audio only users?
Okay, guys, the Lawn Barber is attempting to establish Bermuda grass seed in areas of the yard that only get sunlight when the sun is directly overhead of that area. The rest of the day, the sun is blocked by various structures such as a gazebo and a house. In fact, the worst affected area as far as loss of turf is the corridor or walkway between the house and the gazebo. I mean, I looked at that and I would be wasting my customers' time telling them to reseed Bermuda in such an area, I tell them, no, guys, you know what? You're going to either have a shade garden or you're going to have decorative pebbles, but you're not having grass here because you ain't got enough sun to even grow grass. You know?
All right, let's watch it.
This is just
Oh.
yeah. Let's keep
Now,
going.
Sunday. Oh,
Is this
So
a
they have-
comparison of two different seeds?
one's in a bag, one is in a bottle.
What's up, guys?
No.
Andrew, Lawn Barber. So
One wasn't working, so we're doing
come
something
back
else now.
7 days later to look at this area, and it's still
So we're gonna put on more.
the
Yeah.
same. Now you see some
Pause.
of the shoots have come up.
Okay, so J Pink, throw that screen grab I just sent over to you here. All right, so this is Charleston, which I did verify. This is generally where this gentleman is located, Charleston, South Carolina. And if we're looking at temps here, I don't know when he did this. He said 2 weeks. You know, we're in the 60s into the 70s for the week of the 9th. This is going back into April. 70s into the 80s the week of the 16th. Pretty much mid 70s the week of the 23rd. And lows are anywhere from, you know, the lower 40s all the way up into the 60s. So I would not expect to see any real germination on Bermuda grass seed anywhere close to these types of temperatures. Not just air, but soil temperatures, right? And in a shaded environment that's not getting full sun, that's not going to heat that soil up. So let's go ahead and, Ray, were you going to say something?
Yeah. I mean, you combine that with low daytime and nighttime temperatures, and there is no way in the world I expect Bermuda to even germinate, never mind thrive in such an area, because that area is also probably going to be the first to die in the winter. Okay,
All
it's
right,
going to
let's
be the
see
first
it
to die.
Bermuda. There's some sporadic here and there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a different product. Stay tuned. But first, got to make sure we cut the grass before we put down the seed here. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow whatever platform this video is on, and we're going to dive right in.
I do like that shirt.
J
Matt.
Pink
That's a
here.
full
This is
button.
the second time in 2 minutes that he's told us to like, subscribe on whatever platform we find this video. Just saying.
All right, we gotta get the lawn mowed here. Is that an ego?
Yep.
All right. Let's see what old boy does. Oh boy, we get the bags of topsoil now.
Lord.
There's already seed planted. You missed the music on this one for you, J Pink.
No, that's fine. I'm okay with that. So he's
Yeah.
stacking several cubic
7 days ago,
cubic
we
foot
put
bags
this
of,
down.
of
Smart
evergreen
patch.
topsoil, which is like
It covers 100
ground
square feet.
bark.
This is about 150 square feet, this whole area here. All through here.
Wow.
And this patch
Look at that
over
shade
here.
line. Look how perfect that is. Isn't it amazing?
Uh huh.
But
Yes.
today,
Yeah.
I want to add a little bit to it. So we're going to go with the Sunday Seed and Feed Bermuda Grass Blend.
Ooh.
I'm gonna look up the label while we're doing this.
Uh-huh. Probably pixie dust, a little bit of cocaine, and probably like some Princess 77. You know that they got they got a good deal on an old lot of that. Maybe Patriot, maybe some Patriot.
He just didn't put music here. I did not mute this.
I
is
know
just
it's
Silent.
It's like
film-y
watching
type of thing.
A 1920 silent film. Got it.
Oh boy. All right, so he's raking the soil out. Weird transition there. I just had a seizure.
So I found my setting here. I'm not going with a smaller one. I'm going to go right in the middle with this one so we can spread it evenly. And
I don't even know what this thing is. They make a thing. So you can They make a chicken feeder?
Yep, that's what that is.
What happened to
Pour
just
it
feeding
on,
geese?
Ryan.
Fuck,
Pour
30
that
years of
sucker on.
30 years of practice for nothing, guys. God damn. Just feeding the geese.
Oh man, one down.
Oh man. All right. Fast forward a little bit here. He's just shaking it all out.
So we know what setting we're using on this Figaro spot shaker.
Matt, how often do you use the Big Rose spot shaker in your
0.0.
Last thing we want to do is make sure we get this thing watered here.
I've never used one of those either, Ryan.
We'll have to do a collab review on those. You know, put it on our store, our highly curated website of things to sell. All right, so old boy waters as he throws the straw in, but yeah, like you can see in the previous
Soil
part of the
down.
video.
So we got the product down, we got the topsoil down, we wet it. I know this area probably has a little more fertilizer than
Time's up,
possibly
it's
needs,
over.
but, I mean, with the mixture and everything. But this spot was really, really bald. No grass growing at all. So we got it all hosed down. We still had 2 more bags. So this area took about 18 bags, 1 cubic feet bags.
Okay, pause.
Um,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's the moral of the story. Okay. I'll let you guys talk about the, real quick and give your summation if you've got areas like this that are not in shade and do not have site constraints that would prevent you from growing grass there. You know, what your quick and dirty tips are on patching Bermuda grass, either from seed or from plugs. But here's the thing. And people are going to be like, well, you guys are getting on this guy and he's just trying to make a living, everything. I agree. But here is the definition of getting yourself better as a professional is figuring out why these things are taking place. Like somebody asked in the comments here, like, does he not know why the grass isn't growing there in the first place? Did he solve the issue? In this case, no, he didn't. I mean, this is just simply throwing more money at a problem. And who knows if he's already got, he's already charged for this and he's trying to add more product to the situation, if he's charging the customer back. This is the kind of stuff that getting it right is what keeps you not only in business, but profitable, right? And also keeps you at a level of professionalism that makes you stand apart from your other peers that are just going to go out there and throw some topsoil down, throw some seed down, bill for the shit, and then have to explain why it didn't work, right? So the only reason I'm saying all this is that if this guy wants the help, I'd be glad to talk to him. I'd be glad to share the show with him and learn more about him, what he's trying to do, where he's come from, where he's trying to get to. But right now, man, like this is the kind of stuff that makes us all look bad. You can do better. You can do better. You just got to want to do it better. So I'll leave it all to you on the Bermuda grass patching. Just give a little bit of your educational knowledge because, Joe does know turf, even if it's cedar Bermuda grass and shade.
The first thing that stands out to me is that in a lot of these situations it's easy to get emotionally invested in it, especially if you have a customer that's breathing down your neck, right? Like they're like, I don't understand. You've been treating my lawn for 3 years and I have this bare spot in the same place that is not getting any better, and I'm tired of it. I'm done with it. You put some seed down, something. This is not going to work, and because of that pressure that's fallen on you, you start to lose sight of just some simple common sense, logical approaches, right? And one of the things that is pretty logical, and if you've gone into a backyard, a shaded backyard, or one that you have trees kind of surrounding your backyard, and then various structures in your backyard, a lot of times that area right off the back porch, depending on which way the house faces, is it's landscaped there. You'll see it right off the porch. You'll have a line of landscaping running right down there, just like you do in the front of the house, right? In the front of the house,
Mhm.
what do people typically have around the walkways walking into the front of the house? You typically have landscaping, and then sometimes it was super popular, especially he's down there in coastal Carolina. It was the same thing in Augusta, Georgia when I was there. You go into a backyard, you have trees that surround the property. Look at these that are all surrounding this property that I can see right here. So while at 12 o'clock and at 2 o'clock, you may be full blasted sun right in the center of this. That may not be the entirety of the year. And that sure shit isn't going to be the entirety of the day, right? And if you've had a gradual decline of grass, and specifically Bermuda grass, the only thing that will cause that level of decline that is non repairable in Bermuda grass is shade. Bermuda grass will always find a way in an attempt to be able to come back. And when it doesn't, that tells you that it's just the wrong plant for the wrong place, because shade is the only thing that is surefire to take out Bermuda grass. Literally, the only thing. A nuclear holocaust will not take out Bermuda grass. Shade will. And so when you're in this instance, you lose sight of that, probably because of external pressures that are going on. And then you forget, oh, yeah, I do see that all the time. It does make sense. Maybe the best course of action right here is going to be a case of hydrangeas, a couple of dwarf Japanese maples, maybe some camellias and some gardenias, because I love the way they smell in the spring, and I think you'll love them too. You'll love the fall flowers of the camellias. They're absolutely stunning. In fact, we can do a climbing one on a trellis in these two locations right here. They're going to blow your mind. And then right as we move into summer, these hydrangeas are going to bust, and it's going to be warm enough to start seeing these earlier than later, because we are where we are in South Carolina, and I think it's going to set this backyard on fire in a way that you've never been able to enjoy it before. Instead of worrying about the 150 square foot of grass, right? And then the profit margin on that is obviously going to be significantly higher too, because now it's an install project versus a seed patch project, right? And so you're solving the underlying issue. You're walking away with a customer that's happy, and you're not creating a customer that is now questioning your technical ability, that is questioning your intelligence, and is questioning whether or not they want you on your fucking property ever again. Because trying to grow seed in this, and 2 weeks later on a 7-day grow in, it's not showing anything. In fact, the development of those plants that he showed in the video showed me that was probably lingering pieces of Bermuda that existed beforehand that popped up and was not new seed development, because they would literally be baby hairs at that point. It would be baby hairs. That's the way Bermuda work. It's going to be a baby hair, and then it's going to start. In fact, it would almost look like crabgrass or something is beginning to germinate at that point. It would not be that developed at all. So that was not the seed he was even looking at and demonstrating on video. At 2 weeks, it's not going to look like that, period. If you've had enough experience, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So anyway, point being is that I think something rattled him and led him to believe that this was the best course of action, and you lose sight of that. And so my warning is to everyone out there is that when you get rattled in these situations, even if that means, hey, let me go back, think about what the best course of action is, and then we'll draw up a game plan together. Sometimes you have to do that just because a customer gets in your head and you're tired of them yelling at you or whatever. Take a second, take a break, look at all your options before just spinning off whatever comes to the top of your head while you're standing there in front of them.
Okay. You know what this situation tells me? Right away, as soon as you start managing a property, those kind of areas are the kind of areas that I identify right from the start. And when people tell me the grass isn't doing so well here, I tell them, you know what? How would you feel about this area being something besides half-dead grass? How would you feel about this being foliage plants, ferns, orchids? Or else, if you're not into that, how would you feel
Cannabis.
about the, yeah. How would you feel about this being some kind of a structured hardscape with, pebbles and bricks and pavers, something, because I tell them the worst thing to have to look at and deal with is a goddamn mud patch right off of your back porch. That's just no
Boy,
good,
how do
right?
they have
That's no bueno.
If they
no
didn't
bueno.
have a
So,
good one before, they get a great one now.
Yeah. They've got a fabulous mud patch, and that's no good. So I tell people, this is where you go look at I tell people straight off, you go look at whatever areas in the lawn that are not doing well in the shade. I tell them, I cannot manage, maintain, or apply anything to them that'll make them better. those are the areas that you think about how you want to re-landscape them. I head this off right from the beginning. So it's not like I've been fucking with it for a couple of years. It never gets better. And it looks like I'm not doing anything to address it. That's, because I think this is the case of this situation, is that he's been messing around with it and now he's in trouble. And Mrs. Grady is telling him, hey, lawn boy, you better get grass growing here or else.
Yeah, and it's a tough situation, and I hope he'll see this, and maybe the second time around he'll want to come on. Be great, be wonderful. All right, J Pink, let's go ahead and jump on over to the burn. Sheila has taken many lightning bolts to all the orifices of her body.
When it comes to professionalism, we try to take something and provide a little bit of comedic relief to it, right? And then give our professional perspectives of it. And the reason why we highlight these things is because at the end of the day, there's a very seriousness to what we do, and there's a serious amount of responsibility involved, because we are handling things that, when handled misproperly or improperly, bad shit happens. Okay. When we think about some of the biggest disasters that have happened in the history, think about pesticide disasters that have happened. Hello, Bhopal, right? It is no joke as to what's going on. Case in point, 2 pesticide company workers died and prompts a Pompano Beach warehouse investigation. 2 deaths and 1 hospitalization in Palm Beach and Broward counties prompted an investigation on Tuesday at a warehouse in Pompano Beach, according to city and county officials. There was a hazardous and toxic materials investigation at the Bears Furniture Warehouse at 1589 Northwest 12th Avenue after detectives uncovered a connection to the 3 cases, according to Sandra King, a spokeswoman for the city. As precaution, there were few ambulances and paramedics on standby. Workers evacuated the warehouse and waited under a tent and in cars in a parking lot near the warehouse's loading dock until a hazmat team cleared the warehouse on Tuesday afternoon. Anyway, the Broward Sheriff's Office spokesman reported detectives learned the 3 were employees of a pesticide company that had conducted work at the Bears Furniture Warehouse until Saturday afternoon. Later that day, one of the employees began to feel ill and went to a hospital in Palm Beach County. It was discovered later that day that the other 2 employees were found dead. One was found dead in Hollywood and the other one in Boynton Beach. Detectives with the Boynton Beach and Hollywood police departments are investigating the 2 deaths. The medical examiner's office in Broward and Palm Beach counties were investigating the cause of the deaths. Another hazmat team was involved after police officers found a man dead in a vehicle on Saturday night near the area of Taft Street and North 17th Avenue. No hazardous chemicals were found coming from the vehicle. The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services reported the deaths of the pesticide company employees after working at the warehouse to the EPA. A Bears Furniture representative released a statement, reporting that none of the company's employees at the warehouse had died. So, from what I understand, is that they were using a fumigant in these locations, and the active ingredients of the fumigant is that by the time you realize that you've been exposed, it's basically too late. And Ray, can you give us a rundown on what they were using and what you can expect and how quickly you can expect it, if you have time to expect anything at all?
Okay. Here's the typical fumigant that's now used in the United States for structural applications. It's called sulfuryl fluoride. Okay? And this is a odorless, tasteless gas. And you basically have no idea that you're even inhaling hazardous amounts of it until you start to feel disoriented and weak. And so these poor people in this warehouse, here's what I guess happened. They were in this warehouse, and if they were fumigating, the warehouse was probably not properly ventilated after fumigation. And they went in the building, and of course, you're breathing this in, And next thing you know, all of your organs are just shutting down and you're done. And that can happen literally in less than 24 hours. So it's highly possible for somebody to be exposed, get in their car, try to drive away, but no, they don't even make it home. And
Kind
so,
of like the boat retirement idea. No.
yeah. But then here's my little question to this is normally, when you're dealing with a fumigant in an enclosed area, if you have to enter and you don't have the gas detection meters stating that the concentration of the gases are below a toxic or fatal level, you're normally in SCBA gear. You're basically breathing compressed oxygen. And so I basically don't understand what these people were doing in that building that had been fumigated. I really don't know, because this is something that happens very rarely. But when it does happen, basically there's no way to turn it back or take it back, because again, this gas is not detectable because it's odorless, it's tasteless. There's very little warning that you've been poisoned, even not until you become disoriented and incapacitated, then
And that's not to say
Sad,
that
Matt.
Oh, it's horrible. I think the point that Matt's trying to drive home, and I think Ray, you touched on it too, is just that you're not going to die from a Bermuda grass backyard seeding project, right? That's not the point. But the point is that there is a modicum of respect that you have to have for what you do day in and day out, and especially once you involve pesticides, even fertilizers. Hell, we saw the kid in Wisconsin last year that got hit by the shrapnel coming out of the mower. I mean, there are plenty of things that you can do wrong simply by being unprofessional, not noticing, not caring, just being apathetic about what you're doing, lackadaisical, whatever you want to, call it. And it's unfortunate that this, here, one person gets sick, 2 people die. So yeah, we hate to highlight situations like this, but I think the moral of the story here is that, get proper training, make sure that you're comfortable with what you're doing. And especially even if you're an employee and you're listening to this and there's something that you're not sure of, or you don't know what to do if there's something bad that happens, right? Or you don't know how to recognize the signs and symptoms that, you could have, been exposed to something or whatever. Talk to your boss about that. And if they're lukewarm or if they're not accepting of that, having that conversation, then you need to get the fuck out of there. Like straight up, you need to get the fuck out of there. That's not a good situation to be in. And I've seen plenty of that too. And I'm sure Matt and Ray could probably attest of situations where the boss is, it's falling on deaf ears when you say, hey, there's a situation here and I think it's unsafe. That is a sure sign that it's time to leave. ASAP.
Oh yeah. Because true story now. You know what kind of prompted my road towards self-employment is when I caught a manager repackaging chemicals into Gatorade bottles. No,
same guy that used Ziploc bags for rubbers.
Gotta be, but then because I basically told him too, hey,
I need a zip tie.
I know the rules
A Ziploc bag.
on repackaging, chemicals, and the one prohibition that is like, not negotiable. You may not repackage into containers that resemble food or drink containers. And do you know why?
So some bum doesn't drink it.
So some dummy doesn't accidentally take a drink, and with tragic results. And so the reason why I brought that up is because not everything that he was repackaging was glyphosate.
Yeah, they'll do it.
Okay, this was in the early 2000s, so some of the things that were around then were, whoops, that shit will kill you.
Not good.
But so, speaking to your point, Ryan, what I frequently hear of, especially in these companies that do structural pest control, is that other than the guy that is actually responsible for calculating the dose of fumigant and dispensing it into the building, most of the other workers in that operation are minimally trained, and they're often treated as expendable. Okay? They're often treated as, not
Clearly
very
in this
valuable. Yeah. I mean, because I'm seeing what Dan the Lawn Man wrote in the comments, and because he's in that part of Florida, he said the building that they were fumigating had no ventilation, and they didn't have the proper reentry PPE. So they basically were sent into a building full of gas. My goodness. My goodness.
Not good. Well, R.I.P. to them. Sad to hear it. And Ray's old boss, Sheila, if you're listening, he's got a 1 gallon size dental dam ready to go for you.
Next up here, we have from Vale Daily, why Vale joined the fight for local control around pesticide regulation. Legislative session offers once in a decade opportunity to lift state preemption in Colorado's Pesticide Applicators Act. Of the many bills considered in the 2023 legislative session, the sunsetting of Colorado's Pesticide Applicators Act is one of them. The bill, which has passed the Senate and is under consideration in the House, would extend the act for another 11 years. And while Colorado's Pesticide Act creates important regulations around the use of landscaping chemicals, including chemicals like pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers, why would they list it as pesticides and herbicides? Pesticides is the all-encompassing word there. I is fucking ignorant. Chris Dillman here. Chris Dickheadman, Dick Brainman, Smooth Brainman. Environmental groups and municipalities are concerned that it doesn't go far enough. As such, certain organizations and governments are advocating for lawmakers to lift state preemption from the act to allow local governments to enact their own regulations around pesticides instead of relying on the current statewide standard. Joining these efforts has been Pete Wadden, advocating on behalf of the town of Vale. Wadden is the town's watershed specialist within its environmental sustainability department. Specifically, he has participated in a coalition with the People and Pollinators Action Network, which is representing numerous communities, nonprofits, and groups around the state in an effort to lift state preemption. The Northwest Colorado Council of Governments, Wadden said, has also been engaged in advocacy. The act and regulations it provides are hugely important. If you look at the history of pesticides in the U.S., dating back to and before Rachel Carson publishing Silent Spring in the late 1960s, some of these chemicals were pretty unregulated and untested and were assumed to be safe until proven otherwise. For instance, DDT. The National Institute of Health reports that pesticides can contaminate soil, water, turf, and other vegetation. In addition to killing insects or weeds, pesticides can be toxic to a host of other organisms, including birds, fish, beneficial insects, and non-target plants. When the government began regulating chemicals, this included the creation of certifications to allow certain professions to use certain chemicals, laws around labels for chemicals, including ratings for where and by who they could be used. And it goes on and on and on. This is a once-in-a-decade chance, they say. Vale is a home rule municipality. We have the power to regulate a lot of things in that community. I don't see why this should be any different, especially when you consider how potentially dangerous and harmful and powerful these chemicals are. That's right. I need more power, more money. I regulate everything else. Why can't I regulate this too? It's your fucking fault. Go ahead.
It's an interesting situation.
Don't let me go on this.
So what they're advocating against is what's known as local preemption, which means there are, I can't remember how many states. I want to say 21, something like that. Don't quote me, but in which the state has a law in place that says that the local municipality or local political subdivision cannot regulate certain things that the state already does, right? So, for instance, Ohio is a preemption state, okay, and we recently went through the same thing here, where there are local municipalities that want to be able to regulate pesticide applications within their particular city, village, township, whatever the case might be. And the state has said and has made law now that says that pesticides and fertilizers are both covered, and in the sense that they already have a state, what they call a state scheme, right? There's a regulatory scheme that's set up already by the state to register pesticides, to license pesticide applicators, to recertify those applicators, and then to also make rules around storage, handling, record keeping, all those types of things, right? And then, getting rid of old pesticides when they go off of label or off market, and then bringing new pesticides in as well. So that's essentially what Colorado has right now. What they're advocating for here is that law, that preemption law, should go away, and that local municipalities should be able to set those rules at the local level. And you can imagine the patchwork of bullshit that might ensue if you have that kind of regulation, and not notwithstanding the fact that if you're in a densely populated metro area, say like in Denver, right, of knowing exactly where you're at and what the rules are, depending on if you're on this side of the street or that side of the street, that could be cumbersome, right, for a business owner. And so that's kind of been a little bit of the pushback from the business owner on the side of, lawn care, sports turf, golf, and all that sort of thing, has been that, we already have schemes in place to regulate this stuff. We've already got a whole, set up in terms of, how we get licensed, all that kind of stuff. There's no need to do this at the local level. The only thing that the local folks want, Matt, is what you're saying. They want more power, and they want to say that, hey, this is our local community. We want to do what we want, and it should be that way. We're a home rule community, all that kind of stuff. That's all well and good, but if there's a state scheme in place, I don't understand how you could say that that's the case, right?
Oh,
I could see
you
if it was
don't
something-
know how? Because this is what it says. Vail is a home rule municipality. We have we have the power to regulate a lot of things in that community. I don't see why this should be any different. That's all it comes down to.
There you go.
We do it to everything else. Why not here?
We do
And then how does that change when you treat lawns outside of Vail and then you have to come into Vail, right? I mean, think about it from that.
You know
And then
what
all of a sudden, you got to go unload your truck. You can't carry this across the county line or whatever the case may be. It's insanity.
Okay, and you know what these kind of regulations also affect? Management of invasive species. Because I know that Colorado is also an agricultural state, right? Ranching and agriculture is very important. However, the side effect from unreasonable regulations on pesticides, unfortunately, trickles back down to invasive species management. Because you know what happens when you can't apply herbicides, for example? Invasive species take over. And I want to know, how does the community of Vail propose to protect the agricultural assets within the rest of the state? Because their decision not to control anything affects the rest of the state. I'm curious about that. I'm
I don't
honestly
know
curious.
Here's a genuine question for both of you, real quick. Is what would be worse, an outright ban by a community like Vail, or a case by case, product by product basis for decision making on what gets sprayed, where it can get sprayed, what rate, what time? What would be worse? What would you rather have to deal with?
This is why we're $30 trillion in debt.
Oh, yeah. This is why
Because
we're
everybody's got a better way,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody wants to deal
Because
with the wreckage that's behind you in your wake. That's why.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to deal with the actual consequences of their decisions. And again, I am not talking about money anymore. This has got nothing to do with money.
Well,
This has got to do with people's lives, livelihood, because you know what I'd say personally? I would just make a wide circle around Vale. No, wait a minute. I'd do better. You know what I would do with Vale? I'd put fucking Vale in a bubble to keep in its pestilence. Okay? That's what I do to Vale. You guys wanna do away with all of this stuff? Here, let's seal you up. Let's contain you. Let's keep you in the containment tent, like how they have to do, say in China for viruses.
Yeah, I think it's something that's very interesting to me in this last, I don't know, 6 months, a year, something like that, where policymakers at all levels, right, from the local level all the way up to the federal level, have got this arrogance about them that says, I know what's best and I'll show you what's best, and I'm going to take this into my own hands. And I don't just mean like left or right or anything. Like, everybody's guilty of this recently.
Yep.
Everybody is. That we're gonna kind of coalesce that power back into the political ranks and less so into the bureaucracy, which again, there's pluses and minuses on both sides. But I mean, I think that most people would say that if you have the right bureaucrats in there, that's not always the case, but if you have the right bureaucrats in place, that those folks can at least keep you on the track. At least keep you on the track. So we'll see what happens here. We'll see what happens. All right. Hey Matt, it's return time. Let's see if we can pick you up with a little story out of Tennessee.
La 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 la.
I'm back.
We had one hell of a cold snap that came through the South, right? And it covered not just the South. I mean, it was everywhere. It got cold as shit this winter. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, where everybody experienced either single digit or negative temperatures, and at least in wind chill factor, right? And if you can imagine, grass doesn't really like that at all. And so we got a little article here out of TurfNet. The December cold snap causes issues throughout the transition zone. Early in December, temperatures in Knoxville, Tennessee reached into the 50s and 60s for much of the first half of the month, and the lows were in the 40s and 50s, both of which are about 10 degrees above the historic average. The day before Christmas, the lows plummeted to 4 degrees and remained below freezing for a week. Damage did not take out entire fairways, but has taken out significant swaths of turf. This year is the most significant winter kill I've seen in Tennessee in 10 or 12 years, said Brandon Horvath, who's a turf grass pathologist at the University of Tennessee, and a great one at that, too. It's concentrated areas that have to be resodded, not whole fairways, but it's going to take time to come back. In Tennessee, it wasn't on greens because just about everybody has covers now. Greens where the covers blew off, they're set back. Golf courses throughout much of the transition zone manage several turf types and fairways, including newer and older varieties of Bermuda grass and Georgia grass. After lows of 40 or more on 8 of 12 days in early to mid-December, temperatures in Knoxville dipped below freezing for 8 consecutive days, tricking the grass into thinking it might be spring, then cratering to single digits helped produce conditions that continue to persist on many golf courses in the transition zone that have Bermuda or Georgia fairways. The USGA green section also suggests encouraging golfers to walk when playing on fully dormant turf. There are still a lot of 419, and there's a lot of Tahoma and Northbridge, and we're seeing damage in some Georgias too. Turf wasn't fully dormant. It was in an in-between stage, and in some places, it got dinged pretty hard. Damage was variable. There were areas where there were no problems and other areas where the damage was significant. The turf wakes up, then goes back to bed. That takes carbohydrates to green up. Do that 3 or 4 times, and the turf is weakened, and that can set it back. Areas showing the most damage are those affected by high cart traffic during winter play, such as exit and entry points on the fairways, and those where other issues such as poor drainage persist. There were issues with where the wheels were constantly in the same area, then the areas between the wheels are okay. Weaker areas definitely were more susceptible. Turf in areas where other factors played a role, if it was too wet or too dry, the cold can be problematic. Horvath says the best way to manage turf that struggles in spring and minimize damage is to control traffic through tactics such as altering fairway entry and exit points. We play on dormant turf all the time, but you have to manage cart traffic. Yeah, I mean, there it is. I think what's strange is that I feel like the majority of the winter kill I have seen people talk about this spring has oddly been almost entirely limited to golf courses. Yeah, delayed green up or anything like that. Yeah, of course, without a doubt, right? We're moving into May. There's a lot of Bermudas that have not fully greened up yet. It is what it is. But as far as like areas that you pull up on and you're like, that is foobarred. I have only seen that driving past sports fields and any kind of athletic field. I feel like has been the most significant amount of like, I don't think that's going to green up anytime soon so far.
Yeah, I think the point of this article in leaving it in the returns is that one, it was I think a lot of people I've heard from down in mid-south going down to the southeast has been, oh man, times are tough, stuff's beaten up and looks like we might have some winter kill or some delayed green up, that sort of thing. It's not just you. I think that's the whole point here coming out of UT. They actually put out a pretty good letter that was even more functional than what Horvath's interview was here. That was really, really good that they sent out preemptively to a lot of the golf courses there in Tennessee, Matt, and kind of highlighted temperature differences and all this other stuff. So I think the whole point is that if you're seeing delayed green up, if you're seeing, some tough turf conditions, certain spots, give yourself a little bit of grace. If you have customers on the lawn care side that are seeing that too, show them this. I mean, just say, hey, listen, like it's not just us, right? People that manage it at a much higher level are seeing the same thing, that have all the resources in the world to keep this stuff in line and ready to go, come spring. And this spring, I think, honestly, I keep saying this over and over again with these cold tolerant Bermuda grasses, is that it is the blessing and the scourge of them is that they want to green up in much cooler temperatures, which is great. But just like Horvath says in that interview, that takes carbohydrates. And every time we get a week of 80 and then, well, here we go. We're 55 degrees for a high again and back down to the 30s. That yo-yo effect really does take a toll, I think, on these things more so than 0 degrees in the wintertime and everything like that, at least from my experience. That's just purely anecdotal. But we'll see this year, Matthew. Hey, you know what? We're almost into Bermuda grass season, so no matter what your ills are, whatever your problems are, you can plug it, you can sprig it, you can sod it, and it's all going to go away by July, ladies and gentlemen. So
shit, you convert it too. It's amazing.
You can spite fert that shit, get it out of there. So, let's see here. What is this? Oh, here we go. Oh, go ahead. What? Huh? What?
Ray had a crash, so he's working on getting his machine back up and going. But for now,
You've got mail.
Well, we've got mail. The question is, does the green or SP stain concrete? I see it has a lot of iron in it. And Ray chimed in. He said if it does not get washed off, it will. Do not let it sit for a long period of time. Otherwise, it will oxidize. I've sprayed plenty of it. Never had it stained anything. And but again, I also get 52 inches of rain a year here. So, it is what it is. So if you're going to spray it on concrete, don't minimize what you do spray on concrete. But is it going to look like you sprayed ferrous sulfate on concrete? No, it's not going to look like that. All right, we're going to head out. We're going to go hang out with the patrons and let them pick the title of this week's video. I want to thank everybody for the title of this week's episode. I want to thank everybody for listening. Don't forget, listen on your favorite podcast apps. If you can, if you're on the old Apple podcast, leave us a 5-star review. And you can say whatever you want in the comments. You can say, Matt has dick breath in the comments and leave a 5-star review. You can say Ryan DeMay got my wife pregnant and leave a 5-star review in the comments. We're perfectly okay with it. That's fine as long as it's 5 stars. We don't give a shit what you comment.
Ziploc bags.
Yeah, we're all out of Ziploc bags, but we do have zip ties, and we'll figure it out. We're crafty in this MFer. Y'all have a great night. Don't forget Thirsty Thursday, we have Aldo coming on, and he's going to be teaching us about welfare and whatever else that we learned in the politics channel today. And can't wait to learn about that. Yeah, God Almighty, still fucking angry about that too. Love y'all. Bye.
Bye. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.